On October the 29th, 2025, Tanzania had one of its most violent and contested elections in its history. Leading to this, the main opposition leader Tundu Lissu had been arrested and put under 24/7 CCTV surveillance while in isolation. This election was met with accusation of rigging, where there are videos circulating of electoral officers signing and ticking where the president Samia Suluhu's name is and filling the ballot papers. Also, protests broke out all over the country that quickly turned deadly, turning it to one of the worst moments in Tanzanian history. But before that, how did we get here? The year is 2021, March 17, and the then president John Pombe Magufuli is pronounced dead due to health complication. It's being alleged that he had contracted COVID, and this was ironic, being that he had banned all the procedures that had been put in place by World Health Organization to combat the spread of COVID. After his death, his deputy Samia Suluhu would take charge and go on to lead the country well. She would also be the first female president in Tanzania and also in the East African region. So many had very, very high expectations of her. Now, this year's election would be her first, and she made sure she won it by any means. When Samia took office, she first of all acknowledged that indeed there was coronavirus and it was not a propaganda as what Magufuli was saying. She also urged Tanzanians to follow all the precaution measures issued by World Health Organization. She also stopped the prosecution of opposition leaders, which was in contrast to her predecessors who hunted them and prosecuted them. And for this, her citizens loved her. She was a beloved president to many. They even referred to her as Mama. Then, little by little, it all started to change and go back to as it was. It first started small abductions here and here, disappearance of small journalists that all are the ones that only seems to criticize her government or not agree with all the things she was doing in Tanzania. They would be abducted and later on found murdered with signs of torture. This now started looking like a familiar trend, since this is what Magufuli was also known for. She also started openly going after the opposition party leader official, detaining them, abducting them without a possible cause or even without following the due procedure through the courts. This led to Tundu Lissu, the main opposition leader, to exile himself due to endless persecution and being hunted by the Suluhu government. Now, it started to seem that everything she promised to end with the previous regime, she herself became the perpetrator of the very, very same offenses. Fast forward to October 29th, 2025. Her first ever election with CCM, Chama cha Maendeleo, Mapinduzi. The day itself was chaotic, with thousands staying at home and avoiding going to polling station, while most took to the street to process what they call sham election. They called it a sham election since Tundu Lissu, her main opponent, was locked away and in isolation with CCTV surveillance 24/7. Also, all the others who were running against her were said to be proxies of CCM in the ballot just for show, since they were not even known. They were just impromptu improvisation due to the need of the moment, so that she cannot seem like she's running against herself. With Tindu out and with video evidence showing election officers marking her ballot papers and stuffing them, this election was called a destruction of democracy by AU and EU. Later on the day, Samia was announced to be the winner with 99% of the votes. Protests broke out in Dar es Salaam, in many parts of the country, and here the country went dark. The government shut down the internet. The police were sent out to combat the rising protests. With this, the police have been accused of using lethal force to stop the protest and even using live bullets toward unarmed civilians. Now, here is where it gets dark. A CNN investigate segment by Rally Mado of Kenya shows how horrific the protest turned out. And with no doubt in mind, this was a massacre. Hundreds of bodies claimed in one picture and outside the mortuary, with many more inside, even on the floor. Following the investigation segment, you can see mass graves dug via satellite images to hide the extent of this massacre. In one incident, a family member reached out to Rally after identifying their lost king among a pile of bodies. It is also claimed that when injured protesters were brought in for treatment, the police prohibited the doctors from treating them and instead ordered that they be taken to the mortuary directly while still alive. Can you imagine? There have been calls for sanctions to be imposed on Suluhu's government, and even the ICC have issued a statement to Suluhu's government. On this situation, Suluhu has said that all these are baseless accusations aimed to cause discord in the country. It is also important to note that Suluhu was sworn in a military camp, not the usual stadium in front of a citizen. So if the election was fair and just, what did she fear so much that she had to be sworn in a military camp? There have been calls to probe the killings by an independent body. Tanzania government said that it's going to create a body that is going to investigate the killings. Now, these have been met with harsh criticism from Tanzanians who are questioning the credibility of this body, since it is being formed that by the government that carried out these sinful deeds. Even the former president of the US, Barack Obama, condemned this and called out the sham election in Tanzania. Members of the US Senate have also condemned what happened in Tanzania. The sad thing is that Tanzanians are peaceful people. For them to have such protests, they must be at their wits' end. That's it for today. This is Joan Wangui Network. Subscribe if you're new here. Ring the notification bell. It would really help the channel. Until next time, adios.